G'day, this is Andrew Price here from BlenderGuru.com. Very proud to present this tutorial to you. It's something that's been requested for a very long time, and that is, of course, how to create a spaceship. So a lot of my readers are apparently sci-fi fans because, as I said, this has been requested quite a lot. So I'm very happy to present it to you now. I've been putting it off for a very long time because I know it's a very hard topic, but I decided to delve into it, and that's what I'm going to be delivering for you guys today. So this that you can see right here in front of you, that is the final image, the finished product that we're going to be aiming to create in this tutorial. So I'll show you before we crack into it, I'll show you what the finished scene looks like in Blender. This is it right here. So obviously part one, this is going to be how to model this spaceship. Okay, so you can see it looks quite complicated, but that's all going to be covered in this tutorial. And then in part two, we're going to be getting into the lighting, setting up the materials and whatever else, all that good stuff. It gets quite complicated. And then I'll show you briefly as well the compositing. This is all going to be covered in part two, but just to give you an idea of the scope of what we're going to be doing in this tutorial series. So when it comes to creating a concept spaceship, really, the word concept essentially means something that does not yet exist. It is entirely from your imagination. So when it comes to creating a concept anything, concept spaceship, concept house, concept car, you start with a sketch. So I'm not by any means... what would you call it? I'm not by any means good at drawing. I just have a tablet and I went into Photoshop and I just sketched out this very rough looking design. You can see that I sketched out a side view, a top view, and a rear view, which is very handy if you're looking into sketching your own. I recommend you at least have those in there. That'll help you model it. But yeah, so that's what I started with. So and you can see that this design here looks a little bit different than the final one, but I changed things on the way as I went. That's fine, you can go ahead and do that. But yeah, so for this tutorial, we're actually going to be using some reference images, which are right here. We've got a front and a side and a top view, and this is of course based off well, this is really this spacecraft right here. So I recommend if it is your first time to be attempting to model a spaceship, I do recommend that you use or you follow this tutorial to what we're creating right here. However, by all means go for it. If you want to go ahead and sketch out your own and then maybe use this tutorial as a sort of a guideline to sort of figure out how things are done, you can do that as well. It's entirely up to you. Yeah, really, it's all up to your imagination, whatever you want to do. There's no rules or anything like that. I thought I'd just show you the creation process that I went through in order to get to the final thing, because it doesn't just automatically, bam, all work together. There's a whole bunch of different choices and decisions you have to go through. Anyway, so this is just over. I started it at the Monday, the front of this week. So I've been working on it for about 4 days or so, just to give you an idea. You can see it started out looking a bit like a boat. A few people on Twitter said it looked like a canoe, so I changed that very quickly. I tried to get more of a plane type shape going. You can see I'm moving around the wings. I've added an afterburner here. Then I went for a metallic type shader, put in the earth. I tried to change the color schemes a little bit. And I wasn't really too happy with the way the colors were looking, so I went for a very neutral looking type scene until I finally got to this image right here, which has been flipped to create this scene that you can see right here. So that just gives you an idea of basically how it was all put together, the creation process of that. So anyway, part one of this tutorial, we're going to be just covering the modeling, and we're going to be creating this spacecraft right here. So without further ado, go ahead and open up a new scene in Blender. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is go ahead and load in those sketched out blueprints that I showed you earlier. So go ahead and hit N, which is going to bring up this, I don't know what you call it, I think it's a sidebar. This is the toolbar, that's a sidebar. Anyway, and then go to background images, click on add image, and we're going to locate it right here. So I'm going to start with this one, front.png. You can find these, by the way, beneath the video. I've provided them for you so you can obviously follow the tutorial. And then you'll notice that if you go to the front view, and we go to that mode there, that you can see it's there, that's loaded in, that's fine. But then if you go to the side view and the top view as well, you can see that the same image is loaded in. And obviously you only want it to be visible from the front, because otherwise it would just be pointless. So from here in this drop down box where it says axes, go ahead and click front. So now if you go to the side or the top view, it's not visible, but if you go to the front, it is. Okay, so now we can go ahead and click add image again, and this one we're going to be loading in the side reference image. And then of course from the axes you want to make sure you hit right, so then if you go front and then right, you can see you've now got two separate different reference images. And then one more for the top, so this one right here, load this in, and then of course from the axes select top. So now front, side and top, you can see we now have those three images in place, which is really perfect. Okay, now with this default cube right here, I think I'm actually going to start with that. So one thing that is important before you really get into the thick of it is you want to make sure that your reference images are all on the same scale as each other, because you notice that if I scale this cube down so that it's roughly the width of that spaceship right there, if I go to the top view mode, you'll notice that it's completely out of whack with this sketch right here, and then the side view as well. Actually, side view you won't be able to tell, but anyway, you get the point. So it needs to you need to make sure you get it matched up before you start. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this these bottom vertices down there to the very bottom of the spaceship, and then the top vertices right here, I'm going to move that to the top of of that line right there, just sort of where it sort of cuts off. I'm not going to include this sort of whatever you want to call that thing. I'm not going to include that anyway. Just leave it right there, and then now you can see in side view mode that base right there that is actually in front view mode, which is lined up perfectly. In side view, it's completely out of whack. So with the side view image here selected, you can go ahead and change the where it appears there, like so. And if I just stretch this out so that it goes right to the very edge, you can see that that is roughly about the same height as our image at the front there as well. So you can see that that's actually pretty good. So then if I move this down here to the very tip, and then if I position that about there, let's say for example, then the front view, you can see that it is it's coming together. It's, I suppose the reference is fairly okay. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to select that that edge right there, or sorry, that face right there, and then I'm going to delete it, and then holding down Alt, I'm going to right click there, then move that across past that origin point right there. Then I'm going to go into add a mirror modifier, then turn on clipping, and then I can now clip them together at the front there, and now we have mirrored editing, so that now when we model something on one side, it appears on the other like magic. Okay, now one thing that's still out of whack is the top view. Now, I'm not sure if you'll actually need all three reference sketches. I mean, I generally didn't use the top reference one that much the many times I've attempted to do this tutorial. But anyway, it kind of helps if you want to use it. So it just, now is the time to make sure that they match. So that's why we're doing this right now. So I want that endpoint there to match there, and then the nose to match there as well. Just make sure that it's that it is actually lined up. That one is there, and let's move that to the very front as well. So just right there. Okay, so I want to increase the scale of that again, just a little bit more. Increase it. Change the Y just a little bit, like so, and then the X as well. I'm holding down Shift while I do this as well, because it allows you to move it along smaller increments. Otherwise, if you try and, you can see how quickly that whizzes past. So holding down Shift really does help. Okay, so I think that is roughly in the right spot. Okay, now some important tips to remember as you're modeling this, because it's going to get quite complicated, I have to warn you, is that because this is a very reflective, shiny looking ship, you want to make sure that the sort of the surface, the overall flow of the vehicle is a nice smooth line from one edge to the other. Now, I'm sure you've probably seen it yourself if you've seen some artwork that's posted online that someone's made of a CG car, for example, and you'll notice that in some of the images that people upload, the door, like wherever there's a door, or, you know, a breakup of the normal shape, that the reflection looks slightly warped. And like the surfaces look uneven. It looks like there's a few dents in it and things like that. And it's all unintentional. And that's really because there were problems with the overall the flow of the vehicle. That's the only way I can really call it anything. It's the flow. So you want to make sure that from the front all the way to the back, you've got a nice even surface all the way down, so that when you've got reflection, light, and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't have that choppy, uneven effect that you often see with vehicles online. So that's very important. So I'm just mentioning that right now. So anyway, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create a loop cut right in the center here, and I'm just going to move that up to be about there, because you'll notice that from the front all the way up to that point there, you can see there's a very straight line across the bonnet, and then there's a slightly less curve going across to the top there as well. And then in the side view as well, what I'm going to do is just move these outwards a little bit, because you want there to be it's sort of like opening up. It starts out very small, and then as it gets out towards the back, it's as I said, it's kind of opening up. So I'm making this slightly wider than the concept sketch, because when I go ahead and add in subsurf modifier that you can see right here, I just turn that up, you can see that it kind of smooths it out a fair bit, and you lose a lot of that shape. Anyway, we don't actually need that just yet, but I'm just giving you an example. Okay, so now we've got the basic outline of it, we can go ahead now and start adding in some loop cuts, and just progressively as we go, start adding in more and more detail. Now these black lines that you can see right here, this is the portion which is slightly hard to create. If you look in the final image here, you can see that it is actually kind of like a cutaway. So there's like a groove in the vehicle, and then underneath that there is a light that is shining through. So each of these black points right here, we're actually going to be modeling that at the end. So for now, what I'm going to be doing is just creating loop cuts, and I'm just going to ignore those black lines for now, but making sure that the mesh topology sort of takes it into consideration. Anyway, I'm talking too much. I'm going to go ahead and add a loop cut right here, and then I'm going to add another loop cut on the other side right there. And I'm just going to position this to about there, and then this one here, and then this one here, like so. It's just a matter of roughly piecing it together. Now you get better at this the more you do it, basically. So don't worry if for the first time it's a little bit hard to kind of, you know, it's a little bit stressful at times as well. I know it can be when you're not really sure where everything should go. But just do your best, and just use my tutorial as a guideline, of course. Now you'll notice that this portion right here, this kind of cockpit area, it's kind of going in a very different sort of style or direction to the rest of the ship. So this point right here, you've just got some very basic sort of vertical cuts, but then here you've got a cut that goes all the way up. So it kind of goes horizontal and vertical. And I wanted this as part of the design, because I thought about, you know, if this was a real spaceship, you'd kind of want a way, like kind of an emergency ejector point. So I kind of thought, like, if this vehicle was on fire or something like that, or something happened, then this whole portion here could kind of eject outwards, and then, you know, the cockpit could just kind of float around, and then they could be rescued later on or something. So that's what I was thinking. So that's why I kind of put in this little cutaway area right there. But anyway, it's a pain to model. So anyway, just to keep that in mind. So I'm just going to create a loop cut that goes to about there, and then another loop cut which is going to go to, actually, I'm just looking at this, I can't actually show you, but about there. So I'm just making it so that that point is in line with that green right there, and then I'm going to move these vertices here down, like so, just so that it's in line with this black line there, because essentially that's all we're doing, is just making these black lines match up, basically. So that's what we're doing right now. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead now. I'll add in a loop cut. Oh, actually, what's going on up there? Oh, okay, alright. So you want to make sure that you grab both vertices because they're kind of behind each other, so just keep that in mind. Okay. Okay, alright. So I also have to warn you in this tutorial, there's going to be points where I'm just kind of pushing and moving things around and I'm not really saying very much. And that's really because that's what modeling is a lot of the time. It's just making very small adjustments. And that's, well, it's just one of the things that you can't really get around. And otherwise I could just kind of skip whole portions of the tutorials and just not show you how I did things. But I know people don't like that. So I'm trying to show you everything. I was also focusing on what I do, and sometimes talking can kind of be a distraction. So I'm hoping you'll bear with me at points in this tutorial. Okay, so currently right now you've got a very square-ish looking ship. Now it's important that you try and get a nice curvature, like a nice smooth surface at this stage in, because the more loop cuts and stuff that you create, then yeah, the less freedom you really have over stuff like this. So I'm just grabbing... Actually, let me just see if I can maybe add, because there is such a thing as edge slide. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, that's really good. I like that. Okay, so edge slide, if you're not familiar with it, it allows you to keep all the vertices along, you know, whichever, you know, in correlation. Anyway, you can sort of see how it is. If I just G and then move that, you can see some vertices, like the ones down the front there, are kind of getting out of whack, and the ones at the back aren't really, you know, where they should be. But if you use the edge slide, then you can kind of move things in, and it'll affect everything equally. So it's a really great tool, and it's one I think I learned about in one of Blender Cookie's tutorials. I think it was, or CG Cookie. It was just a really great tip, and I was just like, wow, that is amazing. So I've been using it a lot, and now I'm sharing it with you. So, okay, so I'm, of course, yes, that's right. So I'm trying to get this nice smooth shape now across here. So I'm going to grab these right here, these vertices, and maybe those there, and I'll just push them out a little bit, just so that it's kind of filling out the mesh, or the shape of it, just a little bit more. You kind of get a more thicker looking ship, because you don't want something that looks very thin. I've tried it in the past where, you know, if you don't have a thick enough ship, it just looks very weak, very impressive, and it just doesn't look very nice. So I'm just trying to get the right shape right now. Now I'm going to delete those vertices at the top there so that you've got a nice cutaway, because this next portion where we're going to be modeling this cockpit area, it can help to have that sort of cutaway there. Anyway, actually before we get into that, I'm just going to model right here this wing right there, because we're going to be extruding out the wing later on as well. And you can see that that also aligns perfectly with this air vent. So if I add now another loop cut in right there, and then let's move that down a little bit, just a touch. Not you. That guy. Alright, cool. Actually, I might just try using that edge slide there on that one as well. Let's try edge slide. Okay, I'm not actually sure that edge slide was really necessary. Anyway. So it's just... I'm just playing around with things, you know, just trying to get the shape as best I can without embarrassing myself, but it doesn't always go that way. Okay, so I'll create another loop cut right here, just on the other side of that black line, right there. Okay, and then we're going to be cutting away, you know, along these right here and these right here as well. I'm just going to be removing those faces. I'm going to do it at the end though, because once you've got, you know, if you separate it like that, and then you say, oh, I want to add in a loop cut right here, you can see that it now, there's not a loop cut on these ones. So it helps to have it all as one mesh for the most part, and then start cutting things the further, once you're sure that everything is the way it should be. Anyway, I need to get a drink of water. Alright, cool. Okay. Alright, so again, I'm just keeping in mind the overall flow of the vehicle, making sure that there is a nice smooth line all the way down to the back of the spacecraft. It's very, very important. I'm going to go ahead and remove that at the back there. Okay, so I've got a nice even cut like that. Okay, now when it comes to modeling this cockpit area right here, what we're going to be doing is just extruding, duplicating that right there. Those two vertices, and duplicating that out. Now I'm going to extrude that up just to where that white point ends. And I'm going to grab those two, or that one edge right there, and I'm going to extrude that down to right there, where you can see that you've got that point. Because once we add in those cuts, whatever, the black areas where there's the light that's going to be shining through, you want to make sure that it is in line with another vertice on the other side of that. So it's very important, otherwise it's all going to look out of whack. And also make sure that you are going to and from the front and side view modes as much as you can, because that's really important that you do that, because otherwise it's just going to be a pain. You finish modeling everything, then you go to another view, and then it all looks out of whack. So it just saves you time if you do it as you're working. Okay, so I'm just going to extrude that out now to here. Let's move that inwards. And extrude this one out to there. Like so. And I'm going to create a loop cut right here. Just so that you can get a more smoothed edge. And because I've created one there, I now need to create one on the opposite side right there. Okay. And let's extrude that upwards to there. Another one to there. Actually, I think that's maybe too much. Okay. Because, of course, you need to keep in mind what is on when we create a face across these right here. Sorry, basically these have to be connected to this area right here. So you want to make sure that you have the same number of edge loops on both sides, essentially. So I'm just going to move that up to there. And we will need to create an edge loop along here. So let's go ahead and do that right there. And then another one right there. And then now we can go ahead, add in a face there, and a face right there. And then now for this area at the back here, this one should be a little bit easier because it's quite flat. Okay, so just piecing this out. We're going to make that edge there nice and sharp. At the moment it's quite smooth, but that'll be sharp once we get into the rest of it. But for now it's okay. So I'm just going to again just duplicate those that row of vertices. If you hold down Alt like so, you can select the edge. And then I'm going to extrude that out to the end, just like so, and do the same for this end. Oh, sorry, this vertice right there. And then, no, that's fine. Okay, create a face right there, and then another face right here as well. And there you go. So it's now, you can see it's a little bit out of whack, so we're going to be cleaning that up. But for now, it's okay. Now, one thing you'll note here is that you can see that it's kind of... anyway, you essentially want to make sure that the vertex that's on the other side, you've got geometry on both sides of this dividing line here. Because if you don't, like say if this one is down here, and then these ones are out here, then you'll notice that it's kind of, it's not a very even, smooth divide, because there's geometry on this side, but there's none on that side. So you want to make sure that it all lines up, so that you can get a nice smooth line, where the light is going to be coming from. So something like that, that should be okay. And I'm just going to select that. Let's just move that up a little bit, just like that. Move that down. And we'll move this up, and this one here up as well. Okay, cool. Alright, so I'm hoping you guys are able to follow this so far. I know that it can be a little bit frustrating as you're modeling things, especially with, this type of... I mean, for one thing, it's a concept. So, I mean, you can't really have a look at a reference image as well, which is really, really annoying at times. You just want to be able to have a look at a final product, but you don't have one, so it's all based on your imagination. And then if your imagination is shoddy, then your image is going to look shoddy as well. So it is quite difficult, so that's why I'm going to give this one the tag of an advanced difficulty setting, because it's not for beginners, even though I'm sure probably a lot of beginners are watching this right now, because that is one of the first things a lot of people want to create once they get into Blender. So if you are struggling and it's your first time, don't feel bad, because basically that is very normal. That is indeed. It's going to it happens to the best of us. So it's all part of the learning process. Okay, so we're just we can see we're getting a very nice sort of smooth shape across everything so far, and that is what is important. So just move that out like so. This one has to be in line with that one right there, and this one going to there. These ones moving outwards, and then this one outwards as well. Alright, excellent. Okay, so if you haven't saved it yet, you should probably go ahead and do that as soon as possible. I would recommend that. Blender is good, but it's not that good, so keep that in mind. Okay, cool. Now when it comes to this this window right here, I'm just going to select these faces and I'm just going to extrude them downwards, just like that. So we've got a kind of a lip area right like so. And then in order to make it sharp, you need to adjust the creases, okay? So up here in the sidebar, if I go ahead and change that mean crease to 1, you can see that that edge is now a lot sharper. So I'm going to do that for that one there, this edge right here as well. And then for that edge over there, along the tops as well, add a mean crease there. And then for that final point there on the edge as well. So there you go. Now you've got a nice, cool looking window. So it's all looking quite good so far. Okay, so what I might do, you can see that just across here, it's looking kind of squarish. Like it's, yeah, right there you can see there's kind of a corner where there really shouldn't be one. So if I just select... see if I can do edge split for all of those. Edge slide. Okay, yeah, you can do an edge slide for all of them, which is kind of cool. So, let me just see. If I grab those ones right there, I can start doing an edge slide. I might do one, yeah, I'll create a loop cut right there as well. And let's just slide that down a little bit. And then the same with this one. And what this is going to do is just smooth out that corner that was there previously. You can see it's a lot more smoothed out, which is exactly what we wanted. So it's coming together quite nicely, if I do say so myself. Okay, excellent. All right, so now we've got a rather basic looking shape of it. Actually, we'll go ahead and we'll do this this nose of it right here. So I'm going to delete these vertices, and essentially what you want to do is create a kind of a mixture between horizontal cuts and then vertical cuts as well. So yeah, you want to mix between it. So what I'm going to do is create a few loop cuts along the bottom of the spaceship. It doesn't really matter all that much because you're not going to be able to see it too much. So that's not a big deal. And let me just see how we're going to do this. Okay, let's create a loop cut right there. Sorry, not a loop cut, just extrude that in, as you can see right there. Then create a face, and then let's create another face right here. Whoop. And well, let's see, another face there, another face here. Then let's create one right there, and then one right there as well. And I'm going to have to do something fancy at the top here because, as you can see, I've got one too many edge loops. So let's go ahead, let's delete that one right there, and then move that in. And there you go, now you can see it's all matching up. So that's kind of, it's given us, yeah, otherwise you'll get problems where it looks as though it's kind of like creased, it's kind of pinched. So if you can get a nice even squares, that's sort of the type of shape that you're aiming for. So So it's not too even, but it's better than it was, like having rectangular shapes. So that's looking okay. And now if you go into the side view here, you can grab these vertices at the top, move them back, and you can get a nice kind of smoothed bonnet or hood, whatever you want to call that, part of the ship. It's looking a lot smoother right now, and I can push that one back, push these back as well. Okay, all right. Move that in, scale that inwards as well. Let's move that towards the front. Going into the top view, this is one of the few times you could probably use the top view just to get that nice looking shape, like so. And there you go. You can see that there's it's kind of pinching towards this end there, but I might show you a way you can fix that later on if you like. But yeah, that's it's not looking too bad, I think. And now that we've got this, excuse me, I am losing my voice by the minute. Now that we've got that there, we can go ahead and we can create some headlights just by grabbing that face in the middle there and then extruding that inwards, and you've now got what looks like some snake nostrils, which is kind of weird. Okay, so it's like that. All right, not bad. If I turn on smooth shading, then you can see how it's looking so far. I'm not terribly impressed with the nozzle just yet, so I might just work on that a touch more. I'll just show you how we fix things, how I fix things. I'm sure it's probably not always correct, but you know, it's the best. It's the best I can do. So, all right. Okay, now you've got kind of what looks like a, if you look at it from the front, it's going to be a little bit more obvious, but it's, you've got kind of like a smooth line that goes from down there to the front, and then once it gets to here, it kind of makes a sharp inwards turn. So it's not really fitting in with the rest of the spaceship. So I'm not sure if I can follow the top view that well. So what I'm going to do is just kind of backpedal slightly, just to pull it out a little bit. And then let's grab that there, pull that out a little bit as well. And then those, move that out to about there, as you can see. And then now you don't have too much of that problem where it's not sort of fitting in with the rest of the mesh. So it's looking a little bit nicer there. These headlights, they really do look like nostrils. If I just turn up that mean crease there, and then add in a loop cut to about there, you can it kind of cleans it up just a little bit. And then the more that you increase that subsurf to, then the cleaner that that hole there is going to look as well. So that's something else to keep in mind, I guess. But yeah, one of the most important things is, as I said, to get that nice clean line from the front to the back. So if you can imagine, and this is something I've actually done a few times, if I just take that front vertice there and then that one at the back, hit Shift D, and then if I hit F, you can see that it's drawn a line from there to there. So really all of these vertices here should be in line. So you should have from the front to the back of the ship, everything is falling into place and it should be looking good, but it doesn't always work out that way, unfortunately. If I just grab, I might try the edge slide again, try to line it up as best as I can. Let's move that there. Let's do another edge slide, move that across, another edge slide here. Actually no, that can be left the way it is. Okay, move that down just a touch, and then this one here as well, and there. Okay, so you can see that you've now got a nice line down from the front to the back, just like that. And you can see it sort of looks a lot smoother. So if you can, try and do that for your entire mesh. So it can be, as you can see, it's a little bit out of whack, but it's one of the things that I did for my ship as I was modeling it. And you know, it does take a little bit of time to do this, but yeah, it really does help the overall look of it. So I just move that down a little bit to there. And then move these ones down here as well. Okay. Okay, cool. So it's you get the kind of gist of it. So the mesh is coming together okay so far. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and get into these cuts right there for the mesh. So if I turn on face selector mode, then hold down Alt, you can see that I can select those faces. Whoops, not those ones. These ones right there. Then if I hit X and then select faces, we've now created a nice cut for our mesh. So you can see now how it's going to be all coming together once we get into the good stuff. But anyway, so once you're happy with how it's all looking, so if I just clean up this little area here, because I think there is a large gap going on right there where there shouldn't be. And that's again because you want to make sure that the geometry is lining up on both sides, as it's not in some places. I think it's because of that edge sliding that I was doing before. So it's can be a little bit push and pull with a lot of your modeling. It's just one of those things, I guess. Move that around. That one goes to there. Alright, now I'm going to add a mean crease in there and another mean crease in right here, and that's going to give us a nice sharp corner that you can see, just like that. And then you want to make sure that this one, and this is it's really important because you can see the way that is right there, that looks really, really horrible. So you want to make sure that this is lined up right there, and then what we're going to do is once we create those indents, those lights, we're going to be creating a triangle where those are meeting. So try and get these as lined up as best as you can, like so. And if you're wondering how we're going to be creating those indents, we're going to be using the solidify modifier, and we're going to be doing a fancy trick which I learned, which is going to allow us to to very easily create a few in cuts like that, and then so it should be good. Let's go ahead and save our file, just like so. And I think the rest of it, you can sort of get the gist of how it all comes together, and it's not too it's not too hard. Okay, so the next step is to go ahead and add in a solidify modifier. So you go up here, modifier, and then click on solidify. Now, if you're not familiar with what a solidify modifier does, is it allows you to add thickness to a mesh. So this thickness value right here, if you turn that up, you can see that it is now adding thickness to the edge. Now you'll notice that if you go into edit mode, you've still got just the one side that you're controlling, so you're just moving these around, but it's added in a fake thickness. But what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be applying that, then removing the faces on the inside right here, but keeping these edges, and then we're going to be connecting it all up with faces inside there, and that's where we're going to be making the light emit from, at least in part 2 anyway. Okay, but anyway, one thing that's important to note is that once you've added the solidify modifier is to make sure that you click on recalculate normals, because sometimes if you've got the normals by the way, if you're not sure, is the direction that the faces are facing. If they're facing in the wrong way, then you'll have the thickness on the wrong side of the mesh. So just by clicking on recalculate or whatever, you'll fix that problem. So anyway, so now we've got in this this nice thickness here. You want to make sure that you get that somewhere around about a 0.8 or 0.9, something I think like so. I don't know, maybe 0.1, that could be okay. Yeah. Anyway, of course, this this solidify step is really only necessary if you're creating the exact image that this particular spaceship. If you're creating your own, you might not have to do this, but obviously, I'm sure you can figure that part out yourself. Now, the way that we're going to be deleting the insides, so these faces on the inside here, because we don't actually want them, we only want that edge, that rim, as I said. So what you can do here with the solidify modifier is you can actually set a material for the inside of the those inside faces there. So if I you can see I've got a base material here. If I just call this one exterior, let's just go exterior. Then if I add another material directly below it, and then I just call this rim, or what is it, inside faces, like so. And then let's just give it a viewport color of red so you can actually tell what it's doing. And then if you go down here to the solidifier, if I click on 1, it'll now use material number 1 for the inside faces, as you can see right there. Now that's really cool, because what I'm going to do now is apply the solidify modifier. Then I'm going to go back to here, and then I'm going to click on select, and then it's going to show me all of those faces that are just using that material. Then you can go ahead and delete the material, whatever else. But anyway, it's a really cool, it's better than actually like extruding in those edges by yourself. It can just get messy if you try and do that. So I found that this way works quite nicely, and you get some sort of more even looking results. So anyway, we've got that in place now. Let's go back to the modifier stack here. You might want to, by the way, as a precaution, duplicate the mesh and then move that duplicate to a separate layer like that, and that can just help you. You know, if you have to backpedal or whatever, it can just sort of help you with that. Anyway, so now I'm going to go ahead and click on Apply Solidify Modifier, like that. And you can see that there is some issues right now, immediately noticeable, and that's because it's now applied a face to the entire inside of the mesh, which is kind of ugly. But anyway, doing that step that I told you about just before, going here, selecting inside faces, then hitting select, I can now go ahead and click on faces, remove those faces, and now the inside of our mesh is exactly the way it was before, but we now have those nice rims there, which is really what we did it for. So now to get rid of that ugly thing that's happening right there, I'm going to go ahead and delete these edges. Okay, so it's fairly basic step. Just delete, and whoops. What about these ones? That one right there, that one right there. This is just the sort of excess, you can call it, of our works. Okay, so that one, oh, you've got this one, this entire one right there. Let's delete those. This edge right here. And you'll notice that as you do that, you can see that it kind of snaps together a little bit better. We're going to have to do something with the mirror modifier as well, just to clean it up as well. But you can see that it's getting rid of most of that horribleness. And then this long one along, whoops, okay, so you can't do that. Let's select it one by one. I tried to do a edge loop selection, but that obviously didn't work. And then I think that final one right there, and I think that's just about it. So now, if I go, let's go mirror, mirror, and pull that out, pull that in, and then if I delete, oh, you can see I've got some vertices here that shouldn't be there. Okay, so now that's cleaned up that, and then if I select that, move that in and out. So the problem is that it's not currently in line with the mirror, this mirror modifier. So if you just select that edge, then move it out and in, then it'll fix it up, should fix it up automatically, just like that. So it's kind of like reminding it of where it should be, so it's kind of like snapping into place. So move that out and then in, out and then in. It's just sort of a messy side effect of using that tool, but for the most part, it's I think it's not too bad. Move those vertices there, and there we go. So now, if I actually apply an edge split modifier, oh, I've already got an edge split. Okay, if I set this to, let's say, let's go 60, something like that. Edge split. Hang on, what has that done? Hang on a minute. The subsurf should be before it. Mirror, edge split. I swear I've got that round the wrong way, and it actually looks like it's working. It seems like the edge split is applying after it, and oh, okay, so yes, no, that is in the right spot. I need to now be applying a mean crease, like so, and now you can see you've got that nice, clearly defined edge right there. So we need to do that for all of the edges here. So you want to make sure that you go into edge select mode, just like this. Then you're selecting all of these edges, one by one, like so, edge, edge, then turn up the mean crease all the way to 1. This one here as well, edge, edge, all the way up to 1, just like so. And then for this one here, because you want to get that nice sort of tight corner that I was talking about, so if I just turn that up to 1, you can see it's now looking a lot tighter, just like so. Okay, cool. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and start adding in these faces that you can see right here. So we don't actually need that material anymore, so you can go ahead and delete that. And yeah, alright, so now let's go ahead and start piecing this all together. Okay, and let's just start filling that in. So I just hit face, so I'm selecting these four here, face, just like that. So you can see this is a kind of repetitive motion. It's not really all that thrilling, but you know, if you put on your music and you just go through it and you apply these faces, it's one of the easier things to do in this tutorial, is to just go through it like this. And once you've done it, by the way, oh, what's going on here? Hang on. Got something messy. Okay. So I've accidentally added in a face where there definitely should not be one. Okay, just like that. Alright, add in the face where it should be. Okay. Alright, we're getting there. Okay, so now if I just select that edge right there, then I'll select the other edge as well, and then if I apply a mean crease of 1, you can see we've now got a nice, very clean, very neat looking sort of indent, cut, whatever you want to call it, right down there. So it's very, very easy, as you can see. So I'm just going to go through now, and I'm going to do that. Whoops! I'm going to do that for all of the entire ship. So now that this is a fairly repetitive time, I thought I'd just tell you something that happened to me this morning. I was asleep. It was 5 a.m. this morning, and I was rudely awoken here in Korea, in my apartment, by somebody that was sitting outside my apartment in his car, honking. Okay, now just honking, just like that. And, you know, you think, well, he's probably, you know, just trying to, you know, maybe he's waiting for somebody to come out of their apartment. He's maybe giving them a lift or something. That's what I thought. And, you know, he's probably just, you know, just one little toot, and that'd be fine. But no, he didn't stop. And the person that he was waiting for obviously didn't come out of their apartment because he did not quit. He kept honking for an hour. 1 hour, and in an area that is completely surrounded by apartments. And I was furious, absolutely furious. And the thing is, and if I'm sure some of you listening, if you spent some time living in a country where they don't speak English as their first language, or really much of their language at all, then in a situation like that, there's not really all that much you can do, because you can't run down into the street and start yelling at the guy in English to stop doing that, because obviously that's, well, it's wrong for many reasons. So you just have to sit there, you just have to bear it, and as such, I had to, yeah, basically just kept getting repeatedly woken up over the course of 1 hour. So today has been much of a daze, because I haven't had much sleep at all. And I wish I could say that there was some, like, sweet justice to the end of that story, that, you know, somebody ran down there and you know, told him off, or, you know, took a baseball bat and maybe smashed in his headlights. That's taking it too far. But I wish I could tell you that. But no, I think he just drove away. I think he eventually just maybe got sick of it, or maybe the person came out and he just drove off. So, you know, it just makes you wonder, you know, why some people just aren't thinking at that hour of the morning at who could possibly be sleeping. It's something that's been on my mind all day. You know, why? Why do people do that? But anyway, I just thought and that's not really a very cool story, really. It's just, I just thought I would take, you know, this platform, you know, being that I'm recording a tutorial, just to talk about my moment of stress. So, so there you go. So you can see that I've now, I've done the entire mesh in that time. So we've now got some nice clean looking lines over our entire spaceship, as you can see right there. And now what I'm going to do is just extrude out the wing of the aircraft, or sorry, the spacecraft, whatever. It's an aircraft, let's be honest. It could be, anyway. So to extrude it out, very, very easy. Just go into top view mode right here, and extrude that out. And then let's go scale that back a bit. Let's extrude that out just a touch more as well. And let's go SX, as you can see right there. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm just cleaning up the mesh, because you want to try and get it as you know, as smooth looking as you possibly can. So by having it so that these are all these vertices, you know, the above and the under ones are in line, what that's going to do is just make it so that it's it just looks a little bit tidier. So just doing this can help the end result, essentially. So that's why I'm doing it. Okay, so I'm just moving that up the end there because I want to get that nice sort of cut that's going through there, just to about, as you can see right there. And I'm actually going to just remove those two vertices there, and I'm just going to create a triangle, which I normally, I don't recommend, and I don't think it's a good idea. But in this scenario, it's better than having a bunched up, for a corner, for a face. Just for the sake of having a face with four vertices or whatever, there's not really any point. So I'm just using a triangle. Anyway, okay, so I'm just adding a crease along this wing here, basically doing what we did just for those in cuts, whatever you want to call it. I don't have a word for these kind of things, so I'm just playing it by ear. I'm going to let's go smooth shading so we can see what's going on. And, oh, look at that, it doesn't even line up. So I'm just going to move that across there, and I'm going to extrude it outwards all the way out to the edge here, as you can see that I'm doing right now. And I'm going to create an extra little endpoint right here because we're going to be adding in these kind of, they're lights, essentially. So again, having a look at the final image, these little points here, just got a little tiny bulb at the end of it. And that's just so that other ships, other spaceships or whatever, they can see it if they come too close to it. I mean, I kind of thought about it afterwards, and I thought, if you've got these massive lines with these lights shooting out of it, you probably don't need little lights on the wings as well. But, I thought it just makes it look a little bit nicer, so I decided to throw it in anyway. So add a little bit something extra to it to make it look a little bit less boring. So anyway, so now for this little point here, what I'm going to do is just grab, let's say these vertices right here. Whoops, not those ones. Okay, so those right there. If I just go into top view, you can see. Oh, look at that! I haven't even got it in place. Okay, so well, you shouldn't even be there for starters. Let's remove you. You're not welcome at all. And if I just scale that down now. You want to make sure, again, that you've got a nice clean line from there all the way down there. Not something that looks like it's been bent. So, yeah, just try and get it. Again, if you want to do that line trick again where you draw an imaginary face between the two, or not imaginary, but, an edge between two vertices, you can go ahead and do that. But I think that's, it's not too important. So, anyway, so now I'm just going to, grab these points right here that you can see. Let's grab, how many do we want? Those ones. Go top view, let's see. Something like, alright, I'll grab the next ones over here as well. And then just extrude that upwards. As you can see right there. And now let's add in a mean crease. Okay, mean crease. And then another one here, mean crease. And then let's just grab those vertices there at the end, pull that down. And now if I go, let's go select them, Y, and take this this end face right here, and I'm just going to extrude that forward, just like that. Then set a mean crease for that to 1. Now if I duplicate that, scale that down, set the mean crease to 0, then extrude that out. Then if I delete that face, it's there, face deleted, you can see that you've now got a nice little light coming out of there. Oh, they're a little bit skewed, so let's just clean that up just a little bit. That'll probably help, I think. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Let's just move these points here right down. Just like that. Whoops. Z. Okay, there we go. So you just want to create, because obviously we're using the subsurf modifier, so provided you've got a square shape, then the rest of it should come out as a circle once the subsurf modifier has been applied to it. So now that you've got a nice little bulb there, scale that down, and there you go. Now you've got a little thing for the wing, which is it's not too bad. I think actually, yeah, I kind of realize what's happened here. There needs to be, let's just delete that. Delete. Yeah, that actually stretches out right to the very end of it. I've just remembered. So Alright, let's just add a loop cut in here. You can see that I've really stuffed this up. Okay. Almost there. Not sure if you're aware. Well, obviously you're not aware. There's no way you could know. But it's actually 1 AM here in Korea, because I've been trying to record this tutorial more than once today, and it just hasn't been working out. So sometimes you just have to keep going, and it's one of those days. So starting with, of course, the man who decided to honk his horn this morning, things have been, pretty rough. Anyway, I'm not sure why I'm telling you this. Okay, so now you've got that little endpoint there. This one here is essentially it's the exact same thing. If I just add a loop cut in just right here, and then for this one, this is where you only select those points right there. Then extrude that upwards. Then if I hit S, Z, and 0, you get a nice flat point right there. Okay, S, Z, 0, there we go again. And then now if I add in a mean crease, set that to 1, set this mean crease to 0. Then if I take the face that is at the end here, extrude that forwards like so. Then move that one up, just like that. Y, 0, we've now created a nice flat edge there. Then set that median crease to 1. Pull this back. Shift D, scale it inwards. Extruded that outwards. Set the mean crease to 0. I feel like I'm repeating myself here, because I think, yeah, that's what I am doing. And there you go. Now you've got a nice little light on the middle of the wing there, and you can probably create a mean crease just underneath that light as well. And there you go. It's now looking pretty spiffy, if I do say so myself. Okay, so we're almost, well, I think we're almost there, guys. What I'm going to do is just add in these wings, or sort of these fins, if you want to call them that. So that's very easy. Just take these two vertices that are here. If I hit Shift D and scale that inwards to about there. Let's move that up. And let's scale that to there. Let's extrude that up, I mean. And then now if I take that, oops, of course looking at it from the right view would probably help as well. Then extrude that just to create obviously some thickness to it. And then if I hit mean crease, turn that all the way up to 1. And take that crease, turn that down to 0. You've now got a nice looking fin. And then if I hit Control L again just to select the fin, you can see that you've now got some nice fins. And there you go. So, having a look at the mesh from all angles, you can see that the majority of it is fairly decent. There are a few areas that could do with some cleanup. So you can see this area right here. If you wanted to add a little mean crease in there, you can kind of clean that up a little bit better. But now the majority of the modeling is now done. Oh, there is one final thing I've just remembered whilst we're here. There's this little point, if I just show you the final image again, right here. You've got this bulge where the jet engine is, and this is really easy. All you need to do is just add in a loop cut right. Let me see if I can do it. A loop cut. No, why can't I add a loop cut? That's very annoying. Maybe it's because that is a triangle. Gosh, that's probably why, isn't it? Yeah, that would be why. Okay, so yeah, so to backtrack on what I said previously, let's just turn this into a square, just so that we can now add in a loop cut. Okay, just like this, and then another loop cut right here. So you've now got this this nice face right here. Now if I just extrude that upwards, just like this, to create this sort of engine bay type area. Then I can take those, move them down slightly, and then just select this edge along here and there. Then let's set that mean crease all the way to 1, and you can see you've now got a nice looking sort of engine bay. And if you want to make it even tidier around the edges, you can just turn up that mean crease there, that one right there, and then sort of scale this inwards as well if you wanted to. You could scale it along the x-axis, then move that down. And I think that just about does it. So I'll just check over everything just to make sure that there is nothing else that could be possibly cleaned up, maybe done a little bit better. Oh, there is one other thing we could probably do. We can go ahead and add in that little air vent there. It's something that can kind of just add a little bit of detail to the spacecraft, because there isn't really all that much detail to it. So I'm just adding in those 2 loop cuts right there, then extrude that inwards. Then if I just select all of those vertices like so, then turn the mean crease for that all the way up to 1, you can see you've now got that light little vent there. And then in the next tutorial, once we add the materials, I'll give that face in the middle there. I'll give it a material that's completely black, and that'll look like it's, you know, at least passable as something that's an engine bay or a vent or whatever you want to call it. So, and if you wanted to, you could create another little vent at the top there, but I found that can be a little bit more problematic than, you know, what it's worth. And the same with the little this little bay that's at the top there that I kind of put a hole in it. Wasn't entirely sure. Like, I was thinking maybe that's like an air thing that kind of can cool down the engine or something. It's not all that necessary, but you can go ahead and add that in. That can be some homework for you if you want to do that. And if you want to go ahead and improve this model, by all means, go at it. Have some fun with it. But I think if I just maybe want to add this one final looking adjustment, like that. I think that just about, one final little thing, just to create something on the other edge. Let's just see, hang on. Okay, so down here, because you've got this nice, you know, the line there where the light is going to be shining through, so you want to make sure that you've got faces underneath the wings. So I'm just going to be taking, alright, let's add another little loop cut right there. I'm just going to take these points and then just add a face to them, like so. And then, of course, that is going to allow us, in the next part of the tutorial, to very easily add in a light that's shining through underneath that. And that could be probably cleaned up a little bit better if you really wanted to, but I'm sure that you get the gist of it. Okay, guys, so so that was part 1 of the spacecraft tutorial. It's a little bit long, a little bit lengthy, but of course that's the nature of it. That's just that's how it is. So I'm hoping that you learned some things from this, and of course, if you want to go ahead, create your own concept spaceship for modeling, whatever else, please by all means go for it. It's very fun, and it's a project that you'll learn a lot from. Now, in the next part 2 of this tutorial series, we are of course going to be getting into essentially creating this final image. So we're going to be adding the materials, doing the lighting, you know, putting it in a scene with this star field in the background, and then adding in that Earth that we created in an earlier tutorial that's already on the site. But yeah, so that's where we're up to, guys, at the end of part 1, and I will see you guys all again for part 2.